In an unprecedented turn of events, Michel Langley, a senior military figure and spokesperson from the United States, has publicly issued an apology to Burkina Faso's leader, Captain Ibrahim Traoré, for comments made in previous months that were perceived as condescending and disrespectful to both the leader and the people of Burkina Faso. The apology comes at a time of rising African resistance to foreign influence, where many nations are asserting their sovereignty and rejecting neocolonial interference. Captain Ibrahim Traoré has emerged as a bold and courageous figure in this movement, capturing the attention and admiration of millions across the continent. Langley's previous remarks, which questioned the leadership capacity and direction of Burkina Faso under Traoré, sparked widespread outrage among Africans and supporters of Pan-Africanism globally. Critics accused Langley of echoing outdated colonial narratives and underestimating the will of African nations to govern themselves independently and define their own future. In a televised message that has since gone viral, Langley stood in front of an American flag, wearing full military uniform, holding a placard that read, "I apologize to you, Mr. Ibrahim." His tone was serious, his words deliberate. He admitted that his previous comments were made without a full understanding of the complex challenges Burkina Faso is facing and the strength of its people under Traoré's leadership. "I have come to realize," Langley stated, "that my remarks failed to acknowledge the legitimacy of President Traoré's decisions and the sovereignty of the Burkinabe people. I extend my sincere apologies not just to him, but to all citizens of Burkina Faso who were hurt by my statements." This moment is being interpreted as more than just an apology. It is seen by many as symbolic, a moment of reckoning where the West is being compelled to recognize the emergence of a new Africa, one that demands dignity, equality, and self-determination. Captain Ibrahim Traoré, a former military officer who rose to power through a popular coup, has maintained strong support among his people, particularly the youth. He has consistently voiced opposition to foreign military presence and exploitation of African resources. His administration has emphasized security, national pride, and the reclamation of economic and political control from foreign hands. Under his leadership, Burkina Faso has taken bold steps, including expelling foreign troops, forming regional security alliances with other Sahel nations, and focusing on indigenous governance strategies. These actions have earned him both admiration and criticism on the international stage, but he remains resolute. Following the apology, many African commentators and political analysts praised Langley's gesture, but emphasized that it must go beyond words. They argue that genuine respect for African sovereignty means recognizing the right of each nation to choose its own path without external pressure or interference. Some see this moment as a turning point, a soft diplomatic admission that the tide is shifting. For decades, Africa has been viewed through a lens shaped by foreign narratives. Now leaders like Captain Traoré are rewriting that story. Supporters across Africa flooded social media with messages of solidarity, posting images of Captain Traoré alongside revolutionary figures like Thomas Sankara and Patrice Lumumba. Many called for more African leaders to stand firm and unapologetically defend the interests of their people. As the dust settles on this diplomatic gesture, one thing is clear. The relationship between Africa and the West is entering a new era. One where apologies must be backed by action and respect must be mutual. Captain Ibrahim Traoré has yet to issue an official response to Langley's apology, but many are watching closely to see how this dialogue may evolve. Will this be a one-time event, or is it the beginning of a broader shift in international relations? Only time will tell. In another remarkable development on the international stage, a former French intelligence official, Jean-Luc Moreau, has made headlines by acknowledging the past and ongoing covert strategies used by foreign powers to manipulate leadership transitions and suppress sovereignty in West Africa. In a candid interview broadcasted by a European independent media outlet, Moreau admitted that Captain Ibrahim Traoré's defiance against foreign control is not only justified, but long overdue. Moreau, who served within the French Foreign intelligence service for over 2 decades, spoke about classified missions and influence campaigns targeting African leaders who were seen as too independent or unwilling to comply with Western economic interests. There were efforts, he said, to ensure that nations like Burkina Faso remained under influence, subtly, through aid, security partnerships, and even media manipulation. But what stood out in the interview was Moreau's direct praise for Captain Ibrahim Traoré. He described Traoré as a rare example of a soldier-turned-statesman who puts his people before profit and his country's dignity above all else. Moreau admitted that during his time in intelligence, names like Traoré would often trigger concern in diplomatic cables, not because of misconduct or instability, but because such figures were hard to control. The revelations have added fuel to the fire of anti-neocolonial sentiment sweeping across Francophone Africa. From Mali to Niger, Guinea to Burkina Faso, citizens are becoming more vocal about reclaiming political and economic independence. These statements from an insider have only confirmed what many have suspected for years, that their resources, leadership, and sovereignty have been systematically undermined. Moreau's decision to come forward, he says, was motivated by a sense of guilt and a desire to be on the right side of history. He even went as far as to say, "If I were African, I would be marching with the people behind Ibrahim Traoré." Unsurprisingly, these comments have stirred controversy within French political circles. Government spokespersons have distanced themselves from Moreau's statements, insisting he no longer represents the state and was speaking in a personal capacity. Yet, for many Africans, this is not enough. Calls are growing louder for formal investigations and public admissions from other foreign officials. Meanwhile, Captain Traoré remains focused on his mission. Unshaken by foreign noise, he continues to promote regional unity, security-led development, and the establishment of new political alliances rooted in mutual respect, not dependency. His message has been clear: Africa must rise on its own terms, not through the lens of others. Across Burkina Faso, murals of Traoré now adorn city walls. Youth groups chant his name, and entire villages celebrate his leadership as a symbol of national revival. His stance is not just political, it is cultural, spiritual, and deeply rooted in the desire to reclaim African identity. Jean-Luc Moreau's testimony might be dismissed in official corridors in Paris, but in the streets of Ouagadougou and beyond, it has added another layer of validation to a movement that is not just political, it's historical. As the world watches, Africa continues to shift. The era of quiet compliance is fading, and a new dawn is being led by figures like Captain Ibrahim Traoré, firm, fearless, and unbought. In a historic move that signals deeper unity among West African nations, Captain Ibrahim Traoré, along with his counterparts from Mali and Niger, has officially signed a trilateral defense and economic pact, creating what is now being referred to as the Sahel Sovereignty Alliance. The agreement, finalized in Ouagadougou during a closed-door summit, is seen as one of the boldest steps yet toward African self-reliance and regional autonomy in modern history. The alliance establishes shared military resources, a joint intelligence, command, and a framework for a regional economic bloc free from dependency on former colonial powers. It represents a powerful statement that these nations, often among the most targeted for exploitation and manipulation, are now standing together with a unified voice. Captain Traoré, during a fiery address following the announcement, declared, "We will no longer be dictated to. Our people deserve peace, prosperity, and pride, not puppet strings pulled from across the sea." This initiative comes amid growing disillusionment with regional institutions like ECOWAS, which many now view as compromised or influenced by foreign interests. Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger have each withdrawn from ECOWAS in recent months, citing unjust sanctions, selective interventions, and double standards. Their departure had been criticized by some Western diplomats, but for citizens within the Sahel region, it was seen as a long-awaited liberation. The newly formed alliance immediately began joint patrols along shared borders to counter terrorism and illegal trafficking. Two issues that have plagued the region for years, often worsened by the very international interventions meant to solve them. Traoré and his fellow leaders are now taking a more indigenous approach to security, emphasizing community-based defense, regional solidarity, and strategic partnerships with nations that respect their sovereignty, like Russia and certain non-aligned countries. Notice structured development, shared agricultural initiatives, and even a proposed common currency to replace the CFA franc. As the world watches closely, one fact becomes increasingly evident. The new Africa is not rising with whispers, it is roaring. And Captain Ibrahim Traoré, once a quiet soldier in the background, now stands at the very front of that roar.